This video is going to be a look at Brian Branch's impact in the Lions' 31-29 win over the Vikings in Week 7 on the road. A huge win in the division, number one. Number two, I think it's just another illustration of how versatile Brian Branch is, how many places he can be lined up in on the field and have an impact. I guess you would call it natural reactions or instincts at times. I think he's just extremely well trained, and over the course of the years at Alabama and now at Detroit, he's been trained so much that it looks instinctive. It looks natural. He's a guy who can play middle of the field free safety. He can play nickel defender. Obviously, he did that most of 2023, his rookie season. And now this year, moving around a little bit more. And I think you see that during the course of this film. In fact, you'll see it on his interception of a Sam Darnold pass intended for Jordan Addison, number one. And number two, you'll see it on what might be his best play, most important of the game, which was the 2-point conversion stop against Jordan Addison after the Vikings had recovered a fumble by David Montgomery, took it to the house to retake the lead. Let's get the film started here, and we'll try to spot shadow Branch in each case. He's off the edge here. Second possession is a 3rd and 8. He doesn't get credit for the tackle here. It's actually Nowaski, who I think played quite well at times already so far in every game that I've seen him suit up for the Lions. But this is going to begin the illustration of how many places Brian Branch lines up. I wish I had the talent or the ability to superimpose him on the screen across multiple slots, because you'd see him as a blitzer, you'd see him at middle of the field free safety, you'd see him at nickel slot, and then occasionally you'd see him dropping down into the middle of the field. There's really like 4 or possibly 5 locations you can find him, and in every instance, he does a pretty good job. I thought he was held on this play when I watched it live, and I even spoke about it in the reaction video. It doesn't look like it on film here. Moving forward here, this is a second quarter possession, 4th possession for the Vikings, in fact. And the Lions are down 10-7 at this point. This sequence of plays, this tackle on Jordan Addison in the middle of the field on a 2nd and 14, and then his pass defense, defending 83, I think it's Naylor, on a 3rd down, just shows you how much impact he has. So pre-snap, this is 2nd and 14, like I said. You're going to get Addison motioning across the field and then coming back to the middle of the field. Like I said, it's a 2nd and 9. Branch at safety is matching up. And so Addison sits for a moment. Arnold is over the top. He kind of had to be because of the nature of the motion. And Branch just astutely fits underneath of this. Did he know the route? Did he have an idea from film study? I don't know. I just understand that once the ball is completed to Addison, if Branch were not there, there is space for Addison to run onto. Sure tackler. He's just a guy that wipes out ball carriers, whether it's running backs, receivers, tight ends. You'll see a couple of examples of it in this video. Now that you've seen the video, the play flow through twice, you understand this isn't just a run-of-the-mill tackle. Branch actually makes up for space that was afforded to Addison. Not that Arnold did anything wrong. The motion created a following element for him such that Addison had a lot of space after the catch to run onto. Branch just eliminated it. And then the ensuing play, game changer. In some cases, in some ways. This is a 3rd and 9 pass defense against Naylor coming across the field. Branch up on the line of scrimmage, man-to-man. I think he could play outside corner. As crazy as that sounds, he's got maybe not the long speed, but he's just got the ability to react across so many different spots on the field. Second quarter really shows you the versatility of him. Locked up underneath Naylor. He seems to be really good at making contact with receivers, but he seems to be better, than he was in his rookie year at the time in not drawing penalties, avoiding having those flags called. Whatever he's done to be trained in the offseason, well, he actually didn't practice for a while in the offseason. Obviously, he was in a walking boot. Or in 2024 so far, whatever drills they're doing for him are working because they've, quote, cleaned up some of the penalties that he used to get as a rookie. A great run fit on the backside. Also a great job by DJ Reader of kind of standing up to a combo block. This is Branch. Second quarter, this is the ensuing possession after the Lions got that stop on the pass defense by Branch. They go down and score to take a 14-10 lead. Run concept with Jones downhill. And the guard or the tackle is taking down a defensive end. So Jones is going to cut this back off the guard's down block. You will get the end zone angle of this in a moment. And look how quickly Branch is filling. I mean, he's at the line of scrimmage. It does go down, in fact, as a 2-yard gain. But the fact that he's a safety who's at depth from his alignment. Again, here he is lined up. You can see the ball is on the 45, the plus 45. Branch's feet are at the plus 35, plus 34. And then downhill at the line of scrimmage, he's damn near a linebacker. Well, actually, courtesy of Stacy Van Diver, who's in my Ravens Discord, who's a huge Alabama fan and just clamoring for Branch to be drafted by the Ravens 2 years ago. I understand that Branch played pretty much everywhere in high school, and then in college was just a versatile safety, a guy who could play in the box. Look at the fit. Also, DJ Reader off the combo block. Doesn't allow himself to be moved. 2-yard gain, like I said, in the second quarter. Very next play. So you have 4 plays over the span of 2 possessions where Branch is involved in different locations on the field. Sick interception, obviously, leaping. Great hands, great timing, great hand-eye coordination. But it's also the reaction to the route combination. Jefferson is down here locked up with CD3. Joseph is going to try to deal with this route coming across. Branch is basically releasing Jefferson underneath because it's too shallow. So Joseph then peels off onto Jefferson. They've identified this and matched up brilliantly. Addison coming over the top, essentially 2 deep crossers. And Branch wipes it out from a reaction standpoint. The ball's already out of Darnold's hands, obviously. Undercuts it to take on Addison. Is Arnold beat there? I think those guys have reactions built into certain coverages whereby they are releasing guys to the safety to the inside. You do definitely see a different reaction from Arnold with Addison, basically allowing him a free release but running with him, versus CD3, who is standing his ground, I guess, more so, and fighting with Jefferson. Say what you want about Carlton Davis III so far this year. The one thing I will say is he does not cede ground. I like it. I think Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell are comfortable with the penalties that show up as a result. Third quarter, this is going to be what could have finished the game off. Brian Branch playing man up here on the slot receiver. It's 21-10 at this point. Blanketing the receiver on a potential deep out, and CD3 breaking on the completion to Naylor. This is closer to being an actual fumble than it probably looked in the initial replays, and then even here, because you can see he's clearly out of bounds. His left foot is, in my opinion, at least from the viewpoint that I have, what makes it clear that it should have been a dead ball. But apparently during the game, it was ruled that his right foot was out of bounds. Don't necessarily see that from this view. It's just an illustration, if you ask me, number one, of how hard CD3 plays, number two, of how prescient and how available Brian Branch is to find the football. He's just always in the right spot. Very easily could have finished this game. Gets called back, rightfully so. I think that even if it were not ruled a fumble, which it sounds like it was not, the receiver's left foot is out of bounds when he's touching the football, thereby ruling the play dead. It's a lot closer to being an actual fumble, however, than I first thought on the initial review. Because after the play, I'm sitting here celebrating. I stood up and was just like kind of exhaling, like, great, they're going to get a win. This game's going to be over. And then the review made it look like the right foot was so clearly out of bounds. In any case, it's nullified. Branch is close to having 2 defensive touchdowns in consecutive weeks. The interception against Dallas, and then that fumble return, neither one of which counts for a defensive score, but that's how well he's playing. Up at the line of scrimmage, we're in the third quarter. Lions are up 21-17 at this point. Short pass to the tight end out into the flats. What I love about this one is Branch is able to open his hips to look downfield and then come back to guard the tight end. So kind of like a reverse baseball turn a little bit. He's engaging one of the tight ends and then locks up with 86 briefly. Recognizes play action. Turns to get some depth and then is able to turn back and get eyes on the tight end. And, oh, by the way, make the tackle for what is a 2-yard gain. He's almost like an extra linebacker, an extra outside corner, all at the same time. It's truly ridiculous, in my opinion. I wish that on this play they were a little bit more forceful in terms of taking away Justin Jefferson. Not that other guys aren't talented for the Vikings team. In fact, the tight end has Alex Anzalone beat if he runs this route vertical. The tight end doesn't necessarily realize how much he's won by, so he brings his route back into the middle of the field. Anzalone falls down. So I'm talking about here. I wish, however, that Branch was hedging towards this side a little bit more. I don't think he's doing anything wrong. I think he's doing exactly what the coaches are telling him to. I'd like to see Branch used as a guy who dissuades you from an offensive standpoint of throwing the ball to a particular side. Can he play middle of the field free safety? Yes. Can he be effective there? Absolutely. He had an interception last year as a middle field, a near interception last year as a middle of the field free safety. I feel like if you put him on one side of the field, particularly the side that Jefferson is on, you can force the quarterback into limiting his options because Branch has got such great ball skills, such great understanding and awareness that he can adjust during the play. Third quarter moved on now. Detroit's lead is 28-20. Two crucial stops, well, allowing field goals, I should say, came when it was 28-17. Minnesota able to cut it to 28-20 and then 28-23 before the defensive touchdown or defensive recovery by Pace, which I will show you here in a minute. Great job by Pascal, if you ask me, holding his ground on the outside and then redirecting and finishing the play. Huge sack here on a 2nd and 7. Pushes Minnesota back, basically destroys their flow on that possession, hold them to a field goal, 28-23. Another situation where they were able to get a stop and limit Minnesota to a field goal. I'm sorry, it was 28-20 after that one. This one made it 28-23 with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Sacked by Rodriguez. So many guys here with opportunities. I will be honest with you, in the moment, I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, James Houston forced him to get a sack, and then he just gets juked. Very difficult to watch. But credit to Rodriguez for staying with the play. My apologies, he's over here. Credit to Rodriguez for staying with the play and being able to finish it off. I think Campbell had a sack like that. Rodriguez had a sack on a similar dynamic as Campbell. Pascal had a sack, and then Nowaski finished off the game with one on the final play of the win. 4 sacks, they were able to survive without Aiden Hutchinson. I will do a video Tuesday about the defense on some coverage stuff, some coverage choices, and a couple of criticisms that I have, to be honest with you. This is the fumble recovery by Pace after the score is 28-23. Kind of had my score mixed up a little while ago. It almost was too easy here. It looked like a video game type thing that happens, and you're like, this wouldn't really happen in real life. Minnesota is just playing with house money in some ways in 2024 in terms of forcing fumbles, interceptions. I think they had 11 coming into the game. If Detroit doesn't turn the football over in this game, in my opinion, I think the game's pretty much over at this point with 6 minutes left. They could do what they want, in my opinion, and I think that's illustrated by the manner in which Detroit chose to move the ball down the field on the game-winning drive, the 44-yard field goal by Bates. But in any case, we still weren't done, because after that play, 29-28 Minnesota now, defense has to come on the field, and I think this is amazing by Brian Branch. Watch how these 3 guys sort this out, or try to, instantly. And that's the thing about Branch. There's this return motion, and he comes off of his man. Now, he had motioned over. I'm going to show you the whole thing. So Branch had motioned over with Addison. And then Addison goes to the outside, Branches to the inside. They're just looking to match up with routes. All 3 guys aren't going to release to the outside. If they all do, it's probably a screen to the inside receiver. Someone is generally, from a bunch alignment, going to go to the inside. Someone is generally going to go to the outside, and normally you get stuff like this, like a corner route or a deeper over the middle when you're down in the low red zone. Watch how Branch and Arnold match this up instantly. You see Arnold with the communication? He told him to hold to the inside because someone is going to take the route to the inside. Sure enough, it's Addison. Arnold matches up with the deeper route, and basically Branch gives Sam Darnold nowhere to throw the football, no angle. You kind of see it a little bit here. He comes into the screen late. It's a brilliant football play, I think, just illustrative of how in sync these guys can be at times. Arnold, CD3, Joseph, Branch, all of those guys, they're playing well. I think they deserve credit for challenging people so often. They get penalties at times, sure. This is a great play. And it was important because then it allowed Dan Campbell to basically play for the field goal. He could have played for the field goal anyway, down 32. I guess at that point it would have been 31-28. My apologies. I thought this was probably the best play of the game for Branch, even though he had an interception, even though he had a couple of tackles in open field, a pass defense on a third down, and damn near had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. It was a fun day to watch the Lions get a win, in my opinion. I know it was nerve-wracking, particularly in the second half, but when you sit back and look at the film, at least like I have on Monday, and you check out how efficient and smooth the offense was, how clean things were able to get accomplished after those first 3 possessions, I think the opportunity is there for this Lions team to separate themselves from the Vikings a little bit. We'll find out in the return bout when they come to Detroit later on in the season. At this point, I kind of feel guilty about doing Brian Branch film study videos. I feel like I could do one each week because he's playing that well. Headed for all-pro status. If he keeps up, well, if he's able to convert any of these defensive touchdowns and keep turning the football over, getting interceptions, he's got 4 at this point. I think 32 tackles overall. I think 3 tackles for loss. I could be wrong there. 1 quarterback hit, 1 forced fumble, damn near 2 defensive touchdowns. It's not out of the realm of possibility if he keeps playing like this and is able to get in the end zone a couple of times this year, that you're looking at a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And I understand that that probably sounds like it's too soon for Lions fans to move on from Aiden Hutchinson, who clearly was the front runner, or one of them, for being Defensive Player of the Year. You've got another guy, I think, playing at just as high level in Brian Branch. It's a fun guy to watch. It's so weird to watch and compile and save Brian Branch film because I find myself saving film of Branch in so many different locations, and in my brain thinking, oh, this is going to make a great off-season film study. This is going to make a great off-season film study. We're a long way from that, and probably I'm going to do 3 or 4 or 5 more weekly film studies like this one as the season progresses. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section. If you think I left anything out, I guess fill me in on that too. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study and some of my thoughts and my descriptions of the techniques that he showed, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.